You have a podcast font?
Absolutely.
What?
If you look at my podcast notes, they're all in Bookman Old.
Was that a conscious choice that you made?
I must have started that way, and then I want to change it. Why? What do you use?
These are in Times New Roman.
Of course they are.
I generally use Calibri, but lately I've just been lazy.
I'm not sure I love Calibri.
I like Calibri. It's not a bad font. But yeah, I just use Times New Roman.
Of course you do.
What do you mean, of course I do?
Well, it's kind of the standard font.
Yeah. Gee. Yeah. Who's predictable?
You.
And you.
Times New Roman.
I
You never would have guessed Bookman Old.
No, I would not have. But that is what is predictable about you. Is that you would do something as obnoxious as that. Why didn't
Okay,
you do like
time out.
My notes are in wingdings.
It's obnoxious. So Bookman
Oh, yeah.
Old
Oh,
rises to the level of obnoxious.
For you, yes, because you're clearly doing that to seem kind of pretentious. Like, I am using Bookman
How could that
Old.
possibly be true? I've done it for 103
Wait, he's
episodes,
trying
and
to
you've
seem
just found
pretentious?
out. So you're saying for 103
No.
episodes, I've been slow playing the Bookman Old.
Yeah. You've
So
been
that I could
waiting to dole
drop
this
it
out.
now.
Exactly.
You live in a world of such paranoia.
And welcome to another episode of Even More Mashed Up, the pop culture podcast featuring two professors and Rich from Misericordia University, talking about, well, all things pop culture. I'm Patrick.
Hey, and I'm Alan. Welcome back. We're happy to have you. Of course, as you may have known, or we have spent some episodes playing D&D, so we've been known to do Stranger Things. So today will be no different.
That was your best pun on
That's
Stranger
right.
Things?
Yeah,
There's a
it's
mind flayer in the show, and you couldn't have connected that
Stranger.
to D&D?
Well, playing D&D was like getting your mind.
Hey,
flayed.
Alan.
Yeah.
See?
You know
Yeah,
what's
that's better.
You know what's strange?
What's that?
Talking about season 3 of Stranger Things, when there was never a podcast on season 2.
Oh, time out. There was a podcast on
was there?
season 2.
It's
yes.
strange that it's not posted.
It's strange you didn't record one when I've told you how many times I don't have it because it wasn't me recording it.
Rich lost it.
Oh,
Pretty much.
That's what Dan says.
Yeah, that's what Dan says.
of course he'd say that.
And that's what he says you would say.
Yeah.
Yep. It is weird that we did a Stranger Things 2, which I
I think you mean
mi-
it's strange.
That ship has sailed.
No. Oh, trust me, that ship is barely out of dock.
we
Once in the Titanic, it's already doomed to sink.
we're coming back to 2 repeatedly today. I think it was one of our greatest podcasts.
I thought it actually was a good
it
show.
was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'll have to take your word for it.
Not that anybody will ever know.
Yeah, unless we somehow manage to find it and go back into the archive. And
Oh, I would put that show up immediately. It was that good.
It was a good show.
It's a sterling show.
Yeah. It's a shame.
So good, I guess, that
That it
Rich
was
decided it was too good for people to
You know,
hear.
that's what it was. It's too good
Yeah.
to be heard.
Well, it's not ready for it.
You know what? It's
Yeah.
probably the one thing that could salvage the podcast.
Right. After the D&D
There you go.
debacle.
See, you're welcome. I set
Thank
you up with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So
So
Stranger Things.
We've done
Season
Stranger
3.
Things on the episode. It's just been D&D, not actual
Yes. Well,
series.
did we do a podcast on Stranger Things 1 or was that a radio show?
I think
Radio show.
that was a radio show.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this technically would be our first discussion of Stranger Things.
Well, it depends on what you mean
On the
by
podcast.
technically.
I mean, technically,
We've had the
in-
conversation before, so
Yeah.
not that way. We've done it on a podcast before.
Yeah,
so not
nobody's
that
heard
way.
it, so that way.
That
It's lost like
into
the
like
first
shouting
episode
into
of the radio
into
show.
the abyss.
Yes.
Yes.
Which really maybe that's what we should call the podcast. Shouting into the abyss.
Oh, we should relaunch.
I don't know. We're pretty wedded to our brand.
Yeah, and the 14 people
That
that
sounds like my
regularly download
autobiography.
stuff. How would they ever find us?
I know. They would be so confused.
It
Yeah.
sounds like my autobiography. Just shouting,
Shouting into the abyss.
Richard Baldwin story.
That's not bad.
Yes. All right,
Well,
so
I killed it.
So-
All right. I apologize.
I guess we should start talking about Stranger Things 3.
Stranger Things 3. So what was your general impression? And then we can kind of work our way through the show.
Well, we also have to answer Rich's questions because he apparently doesn't understand the show.
Okay.
Well,
Rich had questions about Stranger Things 3.
yes, because, and maybe I haven't seen the whole thing. Unfortunately, I didn't. So maybe I just.
It feels as though.
We can work with it.
All right.
Go ahead, Rich.
but it felt
What did you not understand from the thing you did not watch fully?
so in the show. Do they call it the Mind Flayer? Like I think so. Like
They do, yes.
Yes.
But it's like a Demogorgon.
Re-
I think
Repeatedly, they call
Okay.
it the Mind
It is
Flayer.
the Mind Flayer.
Well,
They
no,
call
'cause
the Mind Flayer the Mind
I
Flayer.
just reread like on a synopsis on Wikipedia to kind of get some ideas, and like it
Oh,
said
boy.
that, but I didn't know if that was just someone's opinion.
So
No, that is what they actually call it.
Okay, so it's like the Demogorgon, and the person was like, "Oh, they were playing D&D or whatever," and like it's like that creature, so that's what they called it.
the kids call the creature that comes from the Upside Down the Demogorgon.
Yes.
Yes, because it's kind of after their D&D.
Right.
Okay.
Because D&D
And they-
can have that kind of formative impact on a person's life.
Just keep pushing the knife.
To be fair, it is within the milieu of the show to bring up Dungeons and Dragons.
No, it's fair.
So, but yes, they do actually call it the Mind
So my
Flayer.
que-
That is its name.
My impression.
The Mind Flayer actually lives at the Staircase Cliffs.
I don't know why you keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like
Continuity.
you complain
It's like a-
about
it's like a
us
crossover.
bringing up D&D, and then you bring in like things that nobody knows.
I'm sorry, go on. So what was your question? Because
So
I've
my-
got actual stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my impression was that from season 2, especially, that Demogorgon was a thing in the Upside Down, and that was it. But as the show goes on, it seems like there's just any number of creatures that can kind of.
Well, they showed at the end of
Wow.
season 2
Right.
that because they have the shot of I think it was because it's the school because they had the prom.
Right. Yep.
And then they flip to the Upside Down and you see the big shadowy
Mind
mind
Flayer.
what basically ended up being the Mind Flayer.
But like,
Right. But
they
it-
never
there.
saw that in season 2. Like, you know, and when
Well,
they-
it's at the end of season 2.
Sort of what they've done is they've expanded, right? Like season 1 is kind of the Demogorgon,
Yes.
and then season 2
You had the
has
demo dogs.
like an expanding range of villains.
Yeah.
And then season 3 sort of goes big with the Mind Flayer.
But do
Yeah.
they ever go into like how it's like? Is it just the idea that all these creatures were there and they just luckily never ran into them, like throughout each season?
Well, I think the Demogorgon and Demo Dogs would have been like the
Are they
tools of.
Demodogs or Demodogs?
Well, it's Demogorgon. It's DEMO. So
Because Demo Dogs sounds like Democratic dogs.
no.
I judged an action until you said it.
No,
Yeah.
did to me.
So,
So-
I mean, the Mind Flayer seems to be like the big bad above all of them.
But so that's.
But does it control the Demogorgon and the Demodogs?
I think in the sense that they are its servants or
Yeah, like-
minions. Maybe minions is a better phrase.
Rich's question, I think, is a really good one though, because the way in which it's built feels artificial.
Well, it almost. And
It feels like
Deus Ex Machina of like, oh, we need another creature. Boom, there's one coming from the.
Well, there's
Right,
always
right, so
been
the Upside Down.
so that
Yeah.
it doesn't feel. To me, one of my complaints about the show is it doesn't feel like organically building a world of the Upside Down, but instead
Oh,
it's
the
like,
Upside Down, okay.
But it's like season 1. You know, you start and then you have to expand the threat for season 2, and it has to get bigger for season.
Yeah.
That'd be my like one of the things that puts me off a little bit is
Yeah.
that it feels like seasons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's like
To me.
I almost thought like they were going to deal with more of the life itself. Because you know when Eleven travels to like other cities, you know, and like meets
Mm-hmm.
the other people, I thought they were going to do more with that.
I thought they were too, but I think
And I
the
thought that was the
backlash they got
focus.
against
Yeah.
that,
I was disappointed.
They got
I was
backlash
too.
against
The-
that?
they did. Everyone
Oh,
complained
people
about a lot of
hated that
people. I
episode.
liked that episode.
We
Yeah.
both
I
liked
can't
it
remember
when
you
we
did-
talked about it,
But people were like, it was a complete waste of time. Like it
Oh.
didn't serve any and like there was a very strong backlash
'Cause I
against
thought
that
what the
episode.
focus was going to shift to was like forget the Upside Down. It's sort
Yeah.
of over.
See,
you know, they take care of it and they would go that
This
way.
is my complaint with Stranger Things, but a lot of Netflix stuff is you lock yourself into a formula, and then Stranger Things has to be that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'd rather see, and I know like it would take, like it's a risk
Nah.
to say we're done with the Upside Down for now,
Yeah.
and we're going to build out what Rich is talking about. To me, I think Stranger Things would be much more interesting
Well, I
if
think-
it tried that instead of
Yeah.
kind of falling back on formula, which I'll talk about as we kind of get into the
Well, I
show.
think the producers might be moving in that direction. Because, I mean, the way in which that you know, a lot of the characters have moved out of Hawkins at the end of this season.
Yeah.
And then they've even acknowledged that there's only so many seasons they can do before it gets kind of ridiculous that Hawkins keeps getting
But seem, you know, they seem to
invaded.
already
And
reached that
also,
point.
the kids are getting way older, way faster than they produce the show.
Now, Hawkins, on the other hand, like it makes sense to me that there's a breach there.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah,
You know, like a Hellmouth shows up wherever a Hellmouth shows up.
it's under the school.
Right. But then, so thus, that becomes the epicenter of action.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, obviously,
They
we're
didn't-
moving to the Soviet Union, right?
yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know if we're moving to the Soviet Union, but
The show.
right. No, I knew what you were talking about the show.
Okay.
The podcast is now moving to the Soviet Union.
Putin has made us an offer we can't refuse.
Yeah.
Good question, though, Rich. I think it raises
Yeah.
some fundamental
Yeah.
sort of
Like again,
questions
there's
about.
days that Bach, like, oh, and
Yeah.
again, you said like, oh, now everything needs to be breached here because Hawkins is.
Well, they haven't
But
shown
But it's also
any.
like you're the dungeon master.
Yeah.
As your characters become more powerful, you have to
Yeah.
like
And
create
it's like-
more and more powerful.
And it's almost like you're not
enemies.
trying in that sense, where it's like, oh, we have this breach thing, so a new monster shows up and his boss.
Well,
Yeah,
the mind
right.
flare would be, at least in terms of what they've established prior to this, or prior and within this season, the mind flare seems to be the top of
And in D&D, the mind
But-
players usually like
of
that.
the bad people.
But it may or may not be.
Yeah,
for
there's
all
no
we know.
reason-
Well, but
they have
but
to.
then that would be the issue is that if in the fourth season there's yet something else in
I mean,
the
they could
upside
bring it up a
down.
whole-
It's like the
They could bring-
Galacticize.
I wonder if it's more going to be maybe season 4. Can we see the demo dog that they have in Russia?
Ugh, I've got comments about that, my friend.
Maybe it's going to be a whole thing of we're not so much going to have the upside down invading, but sort of the perils of sort of trying to use that
Yeah.
material.
So kind of a parable of the dangers of technology.
Yeah, something like maybe that's
Boy,
what
that's
it's going to be.
never been done before in the 80s, so
No,
Yeah.
no,
Should be.
Yeah, thank God.
totally
novel
original.
Novel inflation.
Did you have any other questions, Rich?
No, that was my main one. Was that like
Oh,
as
okay.
I was watching, it was like basically the upside down felt less special.
Yeah, how far did you get?
I like 3 or 4 episodes in.
So half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 8, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It took me a while to get moving on it.
It
I
did.
felt.
I actually had
felt.
some. It's actually something I had some.
But anyway,
thoughts
so
on.
like your general impression, and then we can talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, or whatever.
My general impression is I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I thought the first half was, as we were just kind of talking about, was kind of. It took me a while. I didn't really get into it until about episode 5.
I was complaining a little bit about it,
And I think
for the first couple episodes.
And I think and I, in watching it, there was a moment that kind of drove home for me why
yeah,
I wasn't feeling it. And I think one of the things we talked about, particularly with season 1 more than season 2,
yeah,
is the way in which that season 1 really sort of relied on kind of an 80s nostalgia.
yeah.
And the story was maybe not as strong as it could have been.
Right.
I think in particular that was how you felt about it.
Yeah.
And we felt season 2 kind of overcame that.
Season 2, I
think,
thought
a
was
bit.
yeah,
So there were two things in terms of again kind of that point about nostalgia that I think were problematic in
Yeah.
this season. One is that the 80s nostalgia that they relied on is not the stuff that I'm really nostalgic for the 80s. It's Day of the Dead, Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
Yeah.
Terminator, which are all number 1 rated R movies.
Alien,
And I
yeah.
was not, I wasn't 17 until 1990. So it's a part of the 80s
in the
that I would not
80s,
see.
Nobody paid attention to those ratings.
I did. My dad, I did see When
Yeah.
Harry Met Sally, but that's because my dad had to buy my ticket.
For
And
so
drop
when
us off.
Harry Met Sally was kind of like your edgiest 80s fare.
Probably. Yes.
Wow.
But I saw it in a theater, yes, absolutely.
is-
What a rebel.
Yeah.
Huh? You didn't see Wayne's World?
Wasn't that in the 90s? It might have been like early 90s.
Did you see it?
Oh, yeah, I
in
saw
the
it.
theater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Googling.
But I think
Because
think
that
of
was
that as more
slightly
as 90s.
edgier than.
Yeah. So
Well,
so that's part
when
of
Harry Met Sally was your like
Yeah, probably.
your super rebellious, like
Is
the
it really
rules
rebellious if my dad bought my ticket?
for you? Yeah, like rules be damned. I'm gonna go see what Harry Met Sally. That's awesome.
My folks can't stop me.
I mean, I didn't go by myself.
I had a slightly
You got a
different.
chaperone?
No, I had my friend Jenny, I think.
I had a slightly a date.
Friend Jenny?
No, Jenny made very clear that was not that.
I just want you to understand, Patrick, before you go.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no way date.
My complaint about the 80s nostalgia is a little bit different. Here's where I thought you
Well,
were
I had-
going.
I had
oh, go
other-
ahead. Yeah, you have another one. Go ahead.
Well, so that's part of it, and then also
Yeah.
like Back to the Future is obviously a big part of this,
Yeah.
and just like Back to the Future is so like kind of mainstream
Yeah.
80s nostalgia, and the stuff I like about the 80s tends to be slightly more
Whoa, no.
esoteric. I'd like to
Pump
say.
So Hall and Oates is somehow more esoteric.
Yes.
They are. Hall and Oates is the Back to the Future
No.
of
No.
music.
No.
100%.
No.
Yeah,
That's
Back to the
ridiculous.
Future, like
Yeah.
3
No,
also.
Huey Lewis and the News
Yeah, no.
are the Back to the Future
It would
of
be
music.
Hall and Oates, Back to the Future 3. Huey Lewis, Back to the Future.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. So,
I mean, I can see that Huey wrote music for Back to the Future
He
so
did.
that you would make that connection, but
Yes.
you do understand that Huey Lewis and the News are just a slightly bigger, slightly less successful version of Hall and Oates.
no, there's many more people in that band.
That's why I said slightly bigger.
Oh, that's what you meant by bigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bigger in number.
Gotcha.
But less
Yeah, 'cause
successful.
okay.
I
Let's
acknowledge.
make that clear. Okay,
greatest,
good.
biggest selling duo of all time.
So that was one of the things in terms of the nostalgia.
Yeah.
But then the other issue that I had was that I think they relied too much on people's nostalgia for seasons 1 and 2 of Stranger Things.
But not for 3?
No, in the sense that, like there's a moment I can't remember if it was like episode 5 or 6, like when the 4 guys get together,
Yeah.
the 4 main kids, and they're all like, "Oh, it's great to be together again." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I guess they were apart."
Ouch.
And it wasn't really something that I felt they established in the show, but just kind of assumed people would know, sort of, having always had those 4 together, people would naturally kind of feel them split
They
apart.
do have that moment of like falling out.
They do, but it
where
didn't-
Will
but-
rides off in the rain in his bike or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, but
But then
I
other
would-
How
things
many
like-
times does that happen?
Yeah, like wait till we talk about Will down the road. I got.
But the other
complaints.
thing too is other characters like Lucas's little sister.
Yeah.
Like when she first showed up at the ice cream shop, I'm like, who is she and why are they emphasizing her so much?
Yeah.
And then they're like, I just randomly mentioned that like she's the sister. I'm like, oh, I guess they were kind of expecting me to know that. And then Murray, the conspiracy guy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's the one that Jonathan and Nancy went to last season. But there was like nothing in the episode
Yeah.
that would tell you that.
Right.
And so there was a lot that I felt like they just kind of. It felt to me like
I mean, it is season 3.
it is,
So
but I still
you shouldn't
would
be
like.
starting here.
but there is an expectation that there's like there was stuff I'm like, oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
like
and then
from previous seasons.
I think they relied too much on, particularly in the early seasons,
Yeah.
relied too much on people just kind of having seen 1 and maybe particularly 2.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really. It just didn't feel to me like. And given how long it's been since 2, that was what kind of kept me from getting into it for a while.
To me, my complaint with the nostalgia was it felt almost manipulative to me and forced.
Oh, I agree.
And
Some
that-
of it was forced.
that, like-
The Russian guy is Terminator. I was like, that is
Right.
not subtle at all.
But I'm thinking about the music, like the soundtrack. Like repeatedly, they just kind of cram 30-second blurbs from big '80s hits,
Yeah.
and
Like,
It's
like
like-
cheap, like, oh, we can afford 30-second bits from like these 10 bands.
but it's like a cheat to me for '80s nostalgia. Like that, it's like the easy way to do '80s nostalgia is just to layer in a bunch of '80s
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
And I felt like the music felt like it was only kind of doing that.
Okay.
I felt like they were
Yeah.
that one of the tropes of this show, like my earlier complaint that it gets trapped in formula. Mm-hmm. One of the tropes is this is the '80s show,
Yeah.
right? Like it's going to
And
be
look at the trailer for it. You know,
Right,
It was like
yeah.
80s trailer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I didn't care for the pop culture references in 1 as much. 2 was kind of more my, like a better fit. Like Billy's pop culture was more my pop culture.
Right. Well, because you are Billy. I think we established that.
No.
Pretty sure we established that you were Billy in our discussion of the second
Who
season.
did we say you were?
No, you were Billy.
Lucas?
Oh, who I was? I don't remember.
Okay.
I might be an amalgam of all 4.
Yeah.
You
but,
you could be all of them at once.
but
that's the same
but
thing
in
too.
this
Is
like it didn't feel organic to me.
Yeah, that's-
it felt layered on in a way that was supposed to be. Like sometimes as somebody my age, I feel like pop culture creators use the '80s to lure me in to watch stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's this nostalgia kind of dynamic at work, and if that's what they were trying to do, I felt kind of cheated on the '80s
Yeah.
part of this. I mean, I know they had New Coke and there was stuff
Yeah.
there, but especially the music, I just felt like it felt forced and inauthentic to me.
yeah. Well, like for me, the moment that really kind of I think speaks to that too is the whole never-ending story
Yeah.
scene, which that felt really. Which I in researching the show, apparently they came up with that idea.
Yeah.
Because the kid that plays Dustin has been on Broadway, and they wanted to show how well he could sing.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why they did that. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really seem like a very organic reason to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
so-
seems like a very produced,
And thus, it's
you know,
not a very
meta.
organic moment.
Yeah.
Right. No, and so
Even though I love that song.
right. So in my my general assessment, I think, is about yours. Like the third time around, I thought had its moments to be sure,
Yeah.
but it wasn't always riveting must-watch TV.
No, I thought it got riveting around the second half.
Oh,
I
but
thought-
not the last episode.
I liked the last
Oh
episode.
my god, I was so drawn out.
Come on,
I was just
throwing
like,
the
Hope kept
fireworks?
saying, "What? I was just like,
Throwing the fireworks?
I was just shouting at the television. That episode literally made me frustrated. To
Really?
watch. Yeah.
Oh, I enjoyed the
You're
last
watching
episode.
TV and yelling at the TV.
So maybe we should start with the things that bugged us or we
I-
didn't like.
yeah.
You
Because
haven't started with that yet?
yeah, can I start with the things that low key bugged me?
Sure.
Okay. Number one. So Joyce figures out that there's a problem because the magnets on her refrigerator don't work.
Right. No, they fall off.
Right. So they don't work.
Yeah. Well, it's not so
So
much
when a
they
magnet
don't
doesn't work,
they've been
it no longer
demagnetized.
sticks to metal.
Well,
so
but
it
when you say the
falls
magnet
off.
doesn't, when you say the magnet
purpose of
does,
a magnet is to be magneted to something.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
You
Something.
clearly just
Listen,
want to argue with
listen,
whatever I say
listen.
because it's so obvious.
When you
the
say-
magnets don't work, and you're like,
No.
no, sir, they just
listen,
It's just like arguing with brother.
listen. When you say the
or
magnets,
my kids.
Listen,
It's like
when
he just
you-
wants to argue.
when you say the magnets don't work, you're blaming the magnets, and it's not the magnets' fault
but
that
they
got
don't work.
demagnetized.
There's no blame. They just don't work.
You're totally
What-
blaming the
What does a
magnets.
magnet do when it works?
Are you?
What does it do? When a magnet works, it sticks to.
Metal.
Thank you.
Magnetized metal.
When a magnet doesn't work,
It doesn't.
it no longer sticks to
it's
metal.
not like the magnets chose not to be magnetized
I
anymore.
didn't
Is this hitting, is this
Wow.
hitting a nerve with you? Like,
You,
did
you
not
are such an
magnetize-
academic. Like you're finding blame loaded into the rhetoric.
You're-
It's just not
yeah,
Are you
there.
associating
You're
yourself-
blaming the magnets,
are
it's
you
not the
connected with
magnets' fault.
Magnets? Did something happen
But
to
that
you
was
like
another thing
this?
too that
And
kind
we've
of
totally missed my point here, which is when
Right.
when Joyce's magnets stop sticking to her refrigerator,
Also
with
at the
no
store.
blame assessed,
oh, there's demagnification everywhere.
wouldn't it be everywhere?
Magnetization.
Right, but wouldn't all of
Well-
the magnets in town stop working?
Also,
Wouldn't somebody else notice that nothing magnetic is
well,
working in
and
town
also,
anymore?
Do they
Like, but-
explain how it happened?
Yeah,
There's a
like
magnetic pulse.
Well, because that's the problem is that a magnetic pulse would affect all electronics.
Well, I'm not sure it was
Like
a
you know how
magnetic
magnets
pulse.
wipe a computer?
I agree with you.
It was an energy pulse
in
of
any
some
good
kind.
superhero popular culture, that kind of EMP would
even-
definitely disrupt
yeah.
more than refrigerator
But we don't know that it
magnets.
was an EMP.
But even if it's just a regular magnetic pulse, magnetic fields would still mess with all electrical current.
Yeah, but it was something from the Upside Down, which is a totally different set of rules. So,
That they never explained.
No, the Russians are doing this.
but they're opening the Upside Down.
With the
Oh, I thought it was the machine that caused the
no,
electromagnetic
They are using
pulse.
the magnetic pulse to open it, i.e., they are making the
Right,
magnetic
so the
pulse.
Russians are making the magnetic pulse.
Yeah, but there's probably some Upside Down energy in there too.
Are you a writer for the show?
Wow, you are quite the apologist today.
I just, I feel
Yeah.
like I have to defend the magnets.
Okay, so-
Did you get a check from the show?
will
Is the
not have
Association
magnets
of-
impugned.
Do not blame the magnets.
All right, so that was one of my. It
The
was.
magnets were victims.
I just want to be clear.
Justice for magnets.
Did the Magnetic Association of Magnets send you a check or something?
So that bothered me a little bit.
Well, it bothered me in the sense that
Wouldn't it be-
it seemed like a very clear attempt to kind of do a version of Joyce and the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
you're
weren't
right.
Christmas lights.
Again, a lot of my complaints are going to come back to the idea that they're trapped in.
That check
It's
box
like-
they have to check.
Right, like
Joyce
my
figured
same complaint
something
with
out.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It was like stuff worked in one, so we need to repeat it in number 2. It just drives me nuts. Like build something new, people.
And there were no good magnets in that movie either.
So the Russians built all of this
Yes.
in Hawkins without
Yes.
anybody noticing.
Under the mall, yes.
Okay. Really?
It's a mall.
Okay.
You'd also think the Russians would like try and buy up the town and get rid of the people there.
I don't
No,
know how
they
the
just
Russians
bought off
could
the
do this
major.
anyway.
The mayor.
Yeah, I
Which
know.
is-
Which is a
okay.
major weak point.
No, it's a classic 80s trope.
Classic
that
80s,
I
yeah.
buy. Like Red Dawn, paratroopers come in, Calumet Mayor sells out the town.
Yeah.
I get it. Like I buy that as 80s logic.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But the rest of it I don't. Low key complaint number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Hawkins is all of a sudden now like a sophisticated town.
Is it?
Well, okay, they've got
Because they
a
have a
cutting edge mall.
Yeah.
Okay, built by Russian money. So maybe we can put that aside.
Yeah. Well, it's
But Enzo's,
what's Enzo's?
the fancy restaurant with the live
Oh, that's
stream
right.
quartet playing where they go. Okay, I grew up in Ohio in a town that might as well have been Hawkins without
Mm-hmm.
like the upside down and the monsters and the mind flayers and all of that kind of
Question.
stuff.
As far as you're aware,
Are you mind flayed right now?
do you know how
Is
Mind
it
Flayer
po-
works?
it's possible.
Mm.
It's,
A
I'm
Mind
not.
Flayer does not control people, it eats your brain.
I
Yeah, but
stand
then
by
it-
my question.
No, well, as far as I know, I'm not. But anyway, so I grew up in a town like Billy was totally part of my world. Like I knew
In the
him.
sense that you are Billy.
No, Nancy, totally a part of my world.
Yeah.
Like that part of the '80s stuff. Small town sheriffs,
Mm-hmm.
the way Hopper runs his department, absolutely. Like all of that is true, but there was no Enzos in Canal Fulton, Ohio.
Yeah.
No, like you,
Well, you
like
look
if
at
you
somebody
wanted a
had to buy
fancy,
land.
if you wanted a fancy, and I use air quotes for the
Mm-hmm.
fancy dinner in Canal Fulton, you went to the Canal Boat restaurant, and you can kind of imagine what the Canal Boat restaurant was.
Canal boat?
Yeah. Well, we had a canal boat in town.
Hmm. Okay.
Like that was the big tourist attraction where I grew up. Is you could come and get on the boat.
You didn't
and
have
the-
them all?
The mules would drive it. Oh no, we had to drive about 20 minutes to get to them all.
Okay, so here's my question.
So
Is your rage really more based on your resentment of Hawkins being sort of a better town than yours?
no, because Hawkins has
feel
been
like it
established
feels
for
like-
2 seasons as my town.
Yeah, but now it's the mid '80s. Stuff is you know,
Hey, guess what? Not really.
no.
Not in Indiana and not in Ohio.
No, but see, you're just
No.
kind of you're painting the
Look,
Midwest with a
You're a
very
left
broad.
coast Oregon elitist who grew up in the lap of all of this like fantastic fondue culture, but not us.
culture.
Did you work at a fondue restaurant?
I did, but that was in the '90s.
I don't know that working at a restaurant makes him part of his culture.
But it was there.
Oh,
the
God,
fondue
well,
restaurant was there. Do you
In
think
the
we
sense
had,
that I washed dishes and came home covered in like
do you think we had fondue restaurants in Canal Fulton? We did not.
no.
No.
Okay.
You give a fondue restaurant?
Had a couple of bars.
There's restaurants that do fondue?
Patrick, we just established that's where he
No,
worked.
but I mean, I was just shocked that one of those existed.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
in,
the melting pot.
in-
It's a franchise.
in the left
Ah.
coast elitist world.
Pretty sure they have
which
melting
you and
pots
I-
out here, by the way.
That you and I did not grow up in.
I grew up on Long Island.
Oh.
That's not left coast.
Like, I can't, I
You
want
do
to
know
help
that's
you.
you know that's the right coast, right?
yeah,
I'm
that's
just saying,
okay,
like,
just-
I'm just saying, I'm also not like, you know.
Oh, you're sophisticated.
Yeah, I'm also like, I'm
Well,
in the Hamptons.
we've got West Coast, we've got Midwest, and we've got, you know,
East Coast.
East Coast.
Why did you pause when you looked at me?
'cause I almost said right coast. I was like, that's not the right phrase.
It was like, this is, and Richard.
Right. Fourth low key complaint.
Okay.
When did the Mind Flayer get all body snatchery? And why did he do it?
And how?
Mind Flayer got a flay?
Okay, so you have no answer.
No, I mean, that's just, I mean, the only thing we've seen of the Mind Flayer was him floating around above things
Yeah.
in the Upside Down. We've never really seen what
Yeah.
the Mind Flayer does, so, you know, I guess this establishes what the Mind Flayer does.
I did like the creepy special effects as people turned into goo and kind of collapsed into him.
That was a little grisly. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess those people are not coming back this
No,
season.
no, I don't think so.
Like, that was like, oh, I guess they're done.
All right. A couple things that bothered me more.
No.
Mike loves Elle and vice versa.
Yes.
That's gross.
Why?
How old are these kids? We're not supposed to take them seriously, right?
I don't think so.
Like, if
How
I'm
old
supposed
are
to believe
they
that
supposed to be?
Mike can love anything except himself,
No.
I cannot.
And Dungeons and Dragons.
Not even that
No,
anymore.
not even that anymore. That's
No.
Will.
He loves
Poor Will.
only himself.
How
Well,
old
it was
are
the
they?
80s. There was a lot of toxic masculinity
We'll
around.
get to Mike next, or later. It drove me nuts. Number 7.
You may we'll get to Will next.
Well, no, I got more on Mike down the road. But the love affair between Mike and Elle was creepy.
Yeah.
Gross. Number 7. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite scenes in season 2 was the bus scene. They're in the junkyard. They're in the
Oh,
bus.
yeah.
And they're surrounded by the demon dogs. And
Demo dogs.
I can't say that because it sounds like democratic dogs. So the demon dogs are all about them. And I thought it did a really great job of building like a horror tension
Yes.
in that scene. And they clearly were like, we got to do that again. So they put him in the cabin in the woods. And I just, to me, I hate almost more than anything in the franchise-driven
Franchise?
You got it, franchise-driven world.
Can I get
in
a
which
side
we
of
live.
french fries with my burger?
One of the things I most hate about it is that you get trapped in these formulas and you
Mm-hmm.
have to repeat ad nauseum the same kind of scene over and over again. Number 8, yeesh. the time people waste with danger on the doorstep doing stupid things.
Such as?
Arguing about the merits of New Coke in the grocery store as Elle is about to bleed out and the world is about to end.
Yeah, well, you know. They're kids. Their priorities are a little mixed up.
Questions that need to be answered.
And plus, Lucas had to be proven completely wrong about New Coke.
Right. But in a way, it makes the New Coke debate just as important as Elle's life and just as important as the survival of human life on the planet.
Are you saying it's not?
Yeah, it seems legit
Yes.
to me.
That
Yeah.
was an important cultural moment.
Oh, the New Coke was a travesty.
It was.
It was a
Oh, you can't
travesty,
know
and
that
there's a
Again.
reason why you don't have New Coke anymore.
Yes,
You
and,
don't have
and
New
further
Coke
proof that
anymore,
New
right?
Coke is a travesty is Richard's defense of New Coke.
Wait, you're defending New Coke?
He just said it's.
I'm just really arguing for the sake of
Are
arguing.
you a Pepsi drinker?
No. I drink a Mountain Dew.
'Cause he's extreme. Richard does the do.
Or, as you're about to go to the underground Russian facility, at which you need the Russians' expertise to turn off the machine, the best choice would be A, keep him hidden, or B, take him to the July 4th celebration so he can eat a corn dog and
Oh,
learn
and
how to
don't
win a
forget-
bear.
Yeah.
Or Woody Woodpecker, I
He
guess.
wants
is what
to.
it means.
Yeah, he wants to participate in American culture.
Yeah.
We need to prove that American culture is better than Russian culture by having the Russians like it more.
Number 9. The last episode ran way too long.
Actually, it was the episode before that was the longest episode.
Wait, no, the last episode ran like an hour and 20 minutes.
Was it? I
didn't
thought that was the one before it.
No.
I like how episodes now are
Like,
just, there are no rules. for how
We're
long
supposed to
they
feel tension. I just felt aggravated.
Really? Yeah.
The
I enjoyed the
fireworks,
last episode.
like they cut to the fireworks being thrown at the mind flayer
Yeah, I liked that.
about 8 or 12 times.
Well, because it took a lot of fireworks.
Yeah, amen. Okay, and 10, 11, where I'm at.
Yeah.
Where'd all the Russians go at the end?
Back to
Amer-
Russia.
No, the American Special Forces
Yeah.
are converging on the mall. Mm-hmm. All of the Russians are in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd they go?
Well, they use the upside down world to travel between worlds to get to Russia.
Can't do that.
No, that is one of.
Yeah, not until they tell you these
They
things.
hadn't even opened it yet. They were still working on opening it, and you're telling me they're traveling through it?
No, it was open enough that things could come out. Why can't things go in?
Number 12.
That's one of the theories about where Hopper is, by the way.
I want to talk about Hopper later.
Of course it's weird, because they say, the American or whatever.
So, can I give number 12, and then I've
Sure.
got my low-key complaints out of the way, and we can move on to
Also
the things,
Chopper.
the things I
God.
didn't like.
Good lord.
So the Russians have a golem, or whatever one of those things are, at the end.
You mean the Demodog?
Yeah. Stranger Things does the worst post-credit teasers of all the pop culture I consume. I've never liked any of their stuff.
Yeah. Did
Never-
they have teasers for
Season 1 ends, and then it comes back and suggests. And I remember, because when we talked about season 1, I'm like, they should have stopped.
We talked about that, yeah.
The waffle scene or whatever?
Oh, that's right. We do get the waffles.
Yeah, it's no good. So the Russians have this demon dog or whatever it
Demodog.
is. This totally badass monster, right? That destroys people. Like just chews them up. And they're keeping it in a cage that's essentially like contained by chicken wire.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to be clear that this
Well, it seemed like it
world-
might be like a baby Demodog.
It was
that-
big enough when it stood up to be as tall as a human,
Yeah.
and it clearly
also, what-
ate that human in about 30
And
seconds.
what idiot would go, oh, it's baby, use the cheap stuff, and then we'll eventually put it in
You know,
the big cage.
Let's
Well,
use the
that's-
chicken wire for now
This is
until
why the
And then
Ru-
the
eventually
Soviet
listen
Union
out,
have
take it out,
something better.
and put it into the
Right.
Again,
yeah.
but you're not appreciating it on a meta level.
Yeah.
This is clearly why the Russians lost the Cold War, is because they do things like that.
Okay. If season 4 turns on the chicken wire fence not being strong enough
I
to
feel like
contain the threat,
clearly they have underestimated the danger.
yeah.
Because they're stupid enough to try to open up the door in the first place. So
Yeah,
clearly they
but
have
we
no
did that.
cognizance
We
of how
opened-
dangerous.
Well, we were
Americans opened the door in the first
We were
place.
stupid enough to do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But anyway,
kept trying to do
But
it.
we've
Right,
learned.
chicken wire.
It's
demon
probably
dog.
like adamantium chicken wire. Like really strong
I
chicken
was
wire.
very disappointed.
What a waste of adamantium to make chicken wire.
Well, unless you're trying to contain a Demodog.
Yeah.
Probably because steel doesn't work.
Apparently not.
Anyway, that's my list of relatively minor low.
Okay, those are your minor complaints because you got
dislikes.
pretty incensed about some of them.
Some of the well, the more I think about them, the more I think, did I waste 8 hours?
More than 8 hours.
Yeah, that's true. Probably was more than 8 hours.
Well, there were 8 episodes.
Yeah, but they were 1 hour each. They were a little bit over, weren't they?
Some were 50.
No, some of them were. Most of them were shorter.
Yeah.
Ow.
So probably not quite 8 hours, but
Yeah.
still. But still. So, did you have any low-key complaints, or should we talk about the stuff we didn't like now? I didn't blitz through them all, did I? I'm sorry, I got a little carried away.
No,
there.
I mean, I don't know.
You went off a tangent and just kind
By the way, I'm now entering page 2 of my notes.
Yeah, I'm not
You
really
just-
sure
you
what
clearly had a
page
bad-
I'm on.
Yeah. Seems fair to say you liked it more than me.
Yeah, I mean, I did ultimately enjoy it. I don't. It's not the strongest of the seasons. I definitely like 2 better.
I think it's 2, 1, 3 would be my ranking.
Yeah, that might be. I need to see 3 again
Yeah.
and maybe 1 again.
You're going to watch it again?
I don't know. I
Oh,
know.
for
No,
God's sake, man.
I said I would need to if I wanted to do that.
Okay.
Oh, I guess this kind of. I guess this counts as kind of a low key one.
Yeah.
So there was one moment that didn't quite make sense to me.
Just one.
Only one.
So the whole point of the Scoop Troop needing
Yes.
Lucas's little sister to get into the Russian facility
Right.
was that the vents are too small.
Right.
And then Hopper goes through the vents. Because that was how I knew, I was like, I think Hopper's going to die.
Wait, does Hopper go through the vents?
They say that's how they got in, was how they went through the vents.
So he and Joyce both go through the
He and
vents.
Joyce and Murray, and I'm like, this is how Hopper's going to die, because the other 2 are small enough to
but
get
Murray
through.
climbs through. Although when he's climbing through the vents,
They're huge.
they're huge.
Yeah.
Well, no, they find bigger ones. If the kids had just looked around a bit more, they would have found different vents.
Maybe the
Yeah,
one
I
that
just-
goes into Scoops Ahoy is a tiny vent, but there's
I
bigger
get,
ones.
I don't know. That I
elsewhere.
just seemed kind of because I thought, oh, Hopper's going to get on the other side and be stuck. He's going to send Joyce and Murray because they'll be able to get out. So I thought Hopper was going to die because he just couldn't get out of the
Well,
facility.
they do emphasize his dad bod
yeah, like
a
he's
lot
he's
in
big.
this series.
So yeah, so that was one of the things I'm like, but the vents were tiny.
Yeah.
That's why you needed the
Also, in movies, vents are very large. And yet in real life, never seen a vent big enough to go through.
yeah.
yeah. So that was sort of a low key
Yeah.
kind of thing that was like that. I mean, I'm sure they just went through a different set of vents, but it was like that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, that's fair.
I guess my other critiques.
Was that really it?
Well, I've got other things that I think are maybe bigger.
We had a giant
Okay.
list and one thing to vent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to give one of your bigger ones?
Well, I mean,
Because I've got a
we-
surprise we need some time for at the end.
We
of the
already
show.
kind of talked about it. I mean, one of the things I didn't like was that they did nothing to follow up what I think of as the Morlocks episode from last season.
Yeah. Yes.
Morlock
Agreed.
episode?
Morlocks is an X-Men reference.
Yeah.
Ah.
That I was really surprised they
Underground
did.
superpowered
Yeah,
people.
that they did nothing with that. Like I was really disappointed in
I
that.
was disappointed too. I agree with that.
Like even when I saw I watched the first episode and I was like, oh, I need to see like how many there are. I'm like, oh, they're back to 8 again. I'm like, oh, are they just like not doing anything
Yeah.
remotely different than what they did before? So I was kind of disappointed in that.
Yeah. That's fair.
There's one of the theories that I read online that I kind of like about the whole the Russians' reference to the American.
Yeah.
Is that one thing I read said it's not actually Hopper.
Yeah.
It's the other powered person that 11 met because she was starting to go. Her plan was to go and find like the people that were
Yeah.
responsible for her and hunt them down. So maybe she's the one that the Russians
I
captured
guess.
It could be.
on part of it, which would be nice to like.
It could
I
be-
hope they don't just abandon that story.
It would be nice to have her back.
Yeah.
But it's such a ridiculous twist in the storyline.
So-
Just because she went off to get the people who created her
Yeah.
doesn't mean the Russians would
Also,
get
they
her.
probably would have referred to her as the girl or something.
I don't know.
No, but they can't call her that and set up,
Oh, it could
intrigue
be
as to who it
Eleven's-
is.
It could be
Right.
Eleven's dad, fake dad, or real dad, the scientist guy.
Didn't she kill him?
No, the Demogorgon.
You mean Paul Reiser?
I think so. The main.
No, Paul Reiser shows up at the end of this season.
Yeah, but he was in season 2.
Yeah.
No, season 1. Like I think the Demogorgon kills him.
Yeah, there was the guy,
Implies
the
that-
guy that was
Oh,
actually
yeah.
experimenting. That kind of looks like the mayor now that I think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Matthew Modine played
That's
that
it.
part.
Yeah, that part. Like he was, but he's dead. Pretty
Yeah.
sure he's dead.
Oh, we're pretty sure. We're positive.
I just don't remember him.
Man, couldn't you imagine you came back? It's like, wow, what a twist.
I have another complaint grounded in the 80s
Okay.
that goes beyond the ugly clothes because, man, 80s was a terrible decade for clothing.
I like 80s fashion.
It's awful.
I kind of I
There's
did.
not one appealing outfit in the
Oh,
entire
come
show,
on.
which is authentic 80s.
Oh.
But it is ugly. Name one. What would you wear?
No. rephrase that. What would someone who is popular wear?
I really can't speak to that.
What would anybody like? Maybe Hopper's Miami Vice shirt you could get
I
away
think it
with
more was
today?
a Magnum PI shirt.
They called it Miami Vice, though, I believe, didn't they?
Well, they watch Miami Vice. I don't know if they call it a Miami. He mentions that he and Elle
I
watch
thought he-
Miami Vice on Fridays.
I thought he connected the shirt to it.
Wait,
But anyway, it doesn't matter. The clothes were ugly, but there's a bigger thing. The mall stuff, like early on when they go to the mall and they're hanging out like at the movie theater and whatnot, felt like an 80s music video to me. Like in the way it was shot, almost.
Are you talking about when Elle and Max are doing like their little
Yeah, that
montage
or
thing?
like there's a number of montages like that.
I
early
kind of
in the
enjoy.
mall.
I enjoyed Max and
Yeah.
Elle's little, particularly like the photo booth thing that they did with
Right,
their
but-
various '80s fashions.
But that's like a totally accurate reflection of a very ugly decade. The 80s were the worst. We agree.
I love the '80s.
fashion-wise?
Yeah, almost every way. Politically,
I
musically,
guess.
socially,
80s is an interesting decade, but not an ideal one.
spiritually.
I love the '80s.
So,
Why?
It's my decade.
but to me, I felt like there was a shift in style. Tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe I don't remember 1 and 2 well enough.
You're wrong.
Thank you, Rich. But it felt like this season, more than others, was almost like an homage to filmmaking or TV making styles of the 1980s. Like there were things they did repeatedly
Yeah.
that really, to me, evoked the 80s. Like one was like the classic 80s sitcom where you would do like a somewhat cheesy joke, and then you would flash cut to the person that you're talking to, and they would wince, or they would roll their eyes, and then there would be an immediate cut to the next scene. It felt like very 80s in the way it was structured.
I think they've always sort
To
of
me, it felt
striven
more
for
so to
that.
me.
Yeah.
So I have to go back.
Well, they are starting.
But I
I mean,
felt-
the more they get to like 1985, 86,
Yeah.
87, like that's when, for me, that's when the 80s start getting a little unappealing.
Huh. I've never heard you say anything bad
Yeah,
about 1980.
like I like my 80s is kind of like 80 to 84, maybe early 85.
First Reagan administration.
85,
Really?
86, 87, like that's when, I don't know, it gets even a bit too plastic and saccharine for me.
Wow. So we do almost agree. You are slowly
saccharine.
coming to my view of the 80s, which makes me...
No, I've always had this view of the
Please
80s.
stop
You've
being
never said
funny.
it before.
I don't tell you everything.
But we've talked about the 80s more than we've talked about anything else. You've never said that.
I know, because I keep
I
some
feel like
things in reserve.
I feel like you're shifting.
I'm not shifting.
Rich, I think we're winning him over.
Listen, there's a reason why I stopped listening to American Top 40 every week around 1987.
We
Really?
made fun of you?
I thought it went off the air.
No, I think it was on the air for a long time after that.
I thought you had no choice.
Anyway, I thought there was that shift in style.
Yeah, no,
And-
there's definitely a shift in style
And then
in a lot of ways in the show.
Right, and in that echoing of the 80s, some of the stuff I liked, I think that you didn't. So that the Russian bad guy looks like Schwarzenegger
Yeah,
and
that
is
just was-
essentially the Terminator.
Yeah, that was just not subtle at all.
I did, however, like the way in which they would all take their like M16s or whatever in one hand and shoot them like wildly at the ceiling. Like that's a classic
Well, that's classic 18.
classic 80s A-team.
A-team that literally, what did I think they said like on I Love the 80s? Like you could give them a semi-automatic gun with a full clip,
Yeah.
and all they would do is hit the dirt in front of their targets.
Yeah. Or Rambo, like there's the great scene at the end of Rambo 2 where he confronts the evil
he's in
military guy and they're in the media compound.
Yeah.
He comes back
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, okay.
he takes out he's got like an M16 in each hand and he just obliterates all the technology around the guy. It was like, and then there's a nod to Alien where Nancy comes face to face with the monster in the hospital.
Yeah.
Where the little head kind of shoots out of the big head. Like that's a very Alien kind of motif.
Oh, and that was another thing that I guess I would put under as a minor complaint.
Yeah.
Is like when Nancy's running around the hospital because like the editor guy is after her,
Yeah.
and then Jake Busey's character shows up as Mind Flayed.
Yeah.
And there's been no establishment of
Right.
him as Mind Flayed prior to that point. I'm like, well, that seems
Right. There's
like something they should have done.
there's a substantial implication that Billy and what's her name?
Yeah.
The lifeguard
Heather?
Heather, yeah, that they have built a fairly substantial network.
It seems like it.
and it's
yet-
not unreasonable that if the publisher of the Hawkins
It's
Gazette
not. But
has
there was
been-
nothing that we
others-
never really saw.
Right, agreed. Agreed. There's a lot that's kind of left to the
Like
viewer
we might have
to
been
put
clued in if,
together.
like, say Nancy went to work one day and the guys aren't actually giving her crap the whole time.
Right.
Like, oh, they seem different.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so that was another thing. Though I do have to say, Jake Busey, great casting for that role.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, speaking of films, though, real quickly before we move on.
Yes.
Did you catch on the marquee? They had Back to the Future.
Yes.
You mentioned that, and they had Fletch.
Yes, I did see that.
So Fletch is the better movie, right?
No.
Maybe not at that moment, but
I did really
in-
like Fletch.
in
Yeah.
retrospect, Fletch is the
I
better
really
movie.
liked Fletch.
Fletch is,
Fletch is a good movie.
I mean, it's Chevy Chase.
It's peak Chevy Chase.
Right, which, like you think about Chevy Chase today and you think, except for a couple moments on Community,
Yeah.
not really your guy anymore.
Yeah.
But,
No, I remember. Yeah, Fletch.
Fletch is-
I'm pretty sure I saw Fletch in the theater.
oh, you want to check if that was PG rated, Rich?
Oh, I'm
'Cause
sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was PG, maybe PG-13.
Well, back in the 80s, stuff like that, they'd
I can sneak it by.
they'd throw in some nudity and all of a sudden you'd have yourself an R movie
Yeah.
that everybody would go see except for you.
Except me.
It was a way to get the kids to go see it. Oh, Vicky didn't go either. So.
Yeah. See.
I didn't even get to see Grease. Grease was
Wow,
Oh,
so
wow.
I thought you'd really push back.
No, I really liked Fletch.
Do you remember on the season 2 episode of our podcast?
PG.
Okay, so you did see it.
Wait a minute. Season 2 episode.
When
of
when our podcast discussed season 2 of Stranger Things.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
do you remember
yes.
that? Remember that discussion we had?
Vaguely. I really was hoping to go review that before
Yeah,
this discussion.
Right. You'd have to remember it.
Yeah.
Because we don't have it on tape.
Yeah, I mean, I can
But
go back to my notes.
One of my favorite parts of that show was I gave you a series of pop quizzes about your favorite 80s things.
Oh, God.
And we're going to relive that because it's never been heard by anybody. So I have saved all of them.
Oh.
I went back through my season 2 notes and I took all of the quizzes out.
Darn.
No,
Good.
you're going to love them.
Okay.
They will only be fun.
Do you remember how I did?
Oh, no. Well, I thought you did terribly because we
Pretty
argued
sure-
about candy bars.
pretty
and you
sure
were
I
dead
nailed it.
wrong on candy bars.
Pretty sure I nailed
How
that.
could you be wrong about candy bar?
Oh, he's dead wrong. But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Okay.
But I had, what I have left are thoughts on characters. So is there other stuff you want to talk about?
No, I mean, my stuff, I actually have stuff on characters to a large
Okay.
extent.
So do you want to start? Do you have a character you want to start with?
No, not one in particular.
All right. How about Hopper?
Okay.
To me, Hopper felt overcooked at the start. It felt a little hammy.
Oh,
as
yeah.
He was playing the overbearing, and I think that's what they were going for. But
Yeah, I was trying to figure
didn't
out-
connect with me.
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure out
kind of
if...
gone through that in the second season.
Yeah, I
hate when they
Well, I think we talked about it in the... I'm pretty sure this was something we talked about in our discussion of Season 2.
Yeah.
Was the way in which, like, the whole Hopper 11, like, surrogate family thing
yeah,
was really kind of dark and like, Hopper being very abusive.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure we talked about that. And in this season, I remember seeing there was something that someone posted about, Hopper being like their ideal man or something like that
Holy
on Twitter.
cow,
and,
yeah.
and someone was like, you should not date.
yeah.
Actually, no, what it was...
In the
it
80s,
it
he
was,
would be like an ideal dude.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
But
what's
not
her face
today.
that plays the lead female in Westworld? Whose name I'm forgetting. Dolores.
What's her name? She's famous.
Yeah.
But
She
Yeah.
replied to a tweet
Yeah,
about
there's an
someone
M in there
saying like
somewhere.
Hopper being...
Mary? No, is her name not Mary?
I can't remember. I keep wanting to say Robin Wright Penn, but that's not what it is.
Is it Masterson?
No, it's not Masterson.
Who plays Dolores?
God, it's right on the tip
Rich,
of my
Rich will
tongue.
find it.
Yeah.
It's a shame I'm the only one with a phone
I've got a phone.
or
I'm
a
just...
laptop.
Fair point, but I got in trouble for
Yeah.
going off the reservation too much last show.
We're the talent, you're the support. So, support
So anyway,
the talent.
I can't remember what you were saying.
Somebody-
Oh,
But
so
no,
she
she posted.
tweeted.
But so someone tweeted something or posted an article about
Batman
like
Rachel Wood,
that's it.
There you
I
go,
knew it was
the
a
Rachel
3-name
Wood.
thing.
I knew it was too.
and yet you did not guess a three-name.
That
Mary Stuart Masterson is a 3-name.
she
person.
replied to something like, "Do not date someone like Hopper. Hopper is terrible."
Yeah.
And I kind of realized that Hopper is not. He represents a kind of masculinity that we would
Yeah.
see very toxic today.
Could we
that
just
was
say that
tolerated back
is very
then,
toxic, but was tolerated?
but was tolerated back then.
Because you say we see it, which suggests that we don't. It's not really toxic.
Well, no,
like you did with the magnets. I'm
No,
trying to stand
we
up for
would not-
women. The way you defend magnets,
Oh, my
I want to defend women today. That it is in fact toxic. We shouldn't see it as
But we
toxic. It is toxic.
But we wouldn't have perceived it as toxic in
it
the
was
80s.
not seen as toxic
That
in the
was my
80s. I
point.
agreed with that part of it.
That
it was
is
the
my
way
point.
that you said that we only see it.
That is my point.
Okay.
Is that we have come to perceive
Okay,
that
look.
as toxic in the way it is toxic
It's important
now.
that somebody on the show stand up for magnets and somebody on the show stand up for women.
As we can tell, they both have equal value.
Victory.
Wow. Rich just equated women and magnets.
I think he was trying to ironically
Yeah.
suggest that you are
think he
perhaps in the morally dubious
I don't think he
position.
was. I don't think he was.
If we look at track records, I didn't say anyone should sleep with a teacher.
That's a fair point. You never said sleeping with students was morally acceptable.
I'm pretty sure that is not what I said.
So, you know what I liked about Hopper?
Yeah.
The way that he repeatedly got beaten up by the Russian.
He took a lot of abuse.
Which he
this
should
season.
have. Like, it was a special ops Russian guy against like a small town out of
shape.
But the way he comes back at the end is Rocky-like.
Yeah.
It's like Rocky coming off the mat against Ivan Drago. There's no way he should get up off the mat,
Yeah.
and yet he does, and he throws the guy into the
Yeah,
big,
well, the Russian guy is kind
upside
of
down machine.
basically Terminator Drago.
Yeah, he
mashed
is.
up.
He's the classic '80s villain, and I wonder if there's a reason why more of those classic '80s villains are resonating today.
I can't think of any reason.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any sense. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just coincidence.
Yeah.
Coinky dink, really. Did he have to die though? Couldn't he just gone into the room with Joyce? It seemed like he just stood on the platform.
Well,
for
no,
a
there was
long time.
there was an energy discharge between him and the room
Oh,
for Joyce. He
okay.
couldn't
Fair
walk through
enough.
without getting. He
God,
basically
such an
had
apologist for this show.
he basically had two choices: stand where he was and get blown up, or possibly go into the upside down.
I've got theories about that in a
Through the
minute.
rift.
But before we do, what do you think of his goodbye note to Elle? They find it in his shirt afterwards, and she reads it. As
Yeah,
they're
no, I
moving.
do remember the
Well, you looked confused.
I don't know if I remember. I know a lot of people were really touched by it.
It really hit me.
Did
And
it?
Hope would
Okay.
say it hit me in the feels.
Okay.
I think as a parent, the way he's talking about how kids grow and
Yeah.
change, and you can't have like triple stack egos for the rest of your life is
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
like,
whoa, 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 whoa!
with your kid.
Why not?
It's just not the same.
Okay.
Like your kid gets to a point. Maybe Leia will get like this eventually, where she just wants to do like her own thing.
Oh, she's at that point.
Anyway, I thought like it really hit me emotionally, although it also had the ring of like an '80s sitcom
Well,
where you like cousin Larry does something terrible. Episode continues. Larry sees the error of his ways. You get the music in the background, the soft music, and Larry's like, "Cousin Balky, I'm very sorry that
Yeah. Well, I read an article.
Taught you
One
to
of the
drive
articles
a
that I read
grapefruit or whatever.
pointed out like that one of the main things this season is patterned after is Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And that the letter Hopper writes is, I think they said it's sort of an inverted version of the letter Marty writes to Doc or Doc writes to Marty.
I don't remember the movie well.
I don't remember it. And it might have been Back to the Future too that
Doc
there's a
Marty.
letter.
Yeah. So finally on Hopper, you don't think he's dead either then?
No.
No, I did what
At first I was really hoping he was dead, only because it would give season 3 some kind of stakes.
It would. I think what could happen, because someone, a friend of mine posted online like how bad they felt for Elle.
Yeah.
That, she's like, well, this is just the worst thing that could happen, losing Hopper. And I replied, was like, no, the worst thing is when Hopper comes back mind-flayed, and she
Yeah.
has to kill him in season 4. That's when she's going to be really messed up.
I have a very different theory for Hopper.
Okay.
All right, I think you're going to like this one, you especially. So he's just gone through a terrible, cataclysmic scientific accident. He emerges as the Thing and jumpstarts the Disney Fantastic Four franchise.
Oh, okay. I'll see that happening.
What?
It's perfect.
Except for all the things that are wrong with it.
What's wrong with it? Name one thing. There's a
Pretty
scientific
sure
accident.
Netflix and Disney are enemies, and so you wouldn't really expect the two shows to cross over.
There's-
Also,
okay, there's
does
one.
that thing happen from space radiation or something?
Well, this is kind of like inner space radiation or something.
Really, we have no idea what it is.
Can I just point out that
Yeah.
the person who raised the objection about comic book canonicity
Yeah.
was not me?
Wow. We are living in the upside down.
Excuse me, I'm pretty sure the Fantastic Four were created with cosmic radiation and
I mean, I think it's all for the movies.
not upside down.
Because we got a lot to cover. The quiz
He
is
won't
going to
be
take
dead.
you some time.
Yeah, he won't
Okay.
be dead.
It will
because
take you some
I think
time.
The show's stuck in that doing it again,
Yeah.
so they're gonna be back.
Though he did he's in one of the new Marvel films. Is he in Black Widow?
He's in Black Widow.
That's right. He's playing Alexei in Black Widow.
I thought I'd read a rumor somewhere that he was actually going to play the Thing in a Fantastic Four reboot.
He would be an interesting
like,
choice to play the Thing.
He'd be a great choice
but
to
he's,
play the Thing.
now
I
that
know.
he's in
Well,
Black
I wrote
Widow.
this, and then Comic-Con happened.
Yeah.
And so it does take a little bit of the steam out of my theory.
It does.
Admittedly.
Though at the same time, Mahershala Ali apparently could be Cottonmouth in Netflix and Blade
Maybe,
and
yeah, so maybe not. Maybe not. So Joyce?
she was very Joyce
Yeah.
in this. I was a little,
There are many characters I would say that about, where I felt like...
I was a little bit disappointed in that. I think they sort of tried to tread a line between like Hopper's gaslighting of her and her sort of like resisting that.
Yeah.
And then the way in which that she kind of, eventually agreed to. I was a little bit disappointed in that.
Yeah.
Hopper was not great to her in this
No.
season.
No, he's a terrible guy to date in any way.
So I was a little bit disappointed in that.
Yeah. I just felt like as a character, she's kind of treading water.
I'm also a little bit, I'm a little bit confused. I'm like, why is everybody leaving with Joyce?
Well, it would make sense she would take her
Yeah,
kids with her. Right?
Yeah,
so that's
but I
the two
mean-
boys, and then
Yeah,
who's gonna-
but
who's
Jonathan,
gonna
the
take care
oldest
of-
kid, has been working on his own and
Well, he's
basically
just an intern at the paper.
and living with Nancy and
Yeah, but in
or-
Joyce's
Yeah,
house.
yeah. But it seemed weird that I'm like, why can't they just unless like their whole relationship is secret from their parents, which I guess maybe it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you move when you have to move, and if your kids break up on high school relationship, who cares?
Yeah.
Because high school relationships aren't important.
But they're not in high school anymore, aren't they?
Aren't they?
Well, Steve has graduated. I don't know if they are, but they're just interns. To me, it felt like...
Yeah, like what their status is, I was not really clear on.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I thought Joyce was somewhat disappointing to me. I'd like to have seen a little more character development.
Yeah, I mean, she was very much who she was
Season 1.
in season 1 and season 2 to a certain maybe. Yeah.
Okay, here's another
Again,
theory
kind of
for you.
kind of stuck in a pattern.
Let me bounce this theory off you. The
Okay.
bad guy in Stranger Things
Uh-huh.
is really Mike.
I could see that.
That he's the bad guy.
But how in because the Mind Flayer's the bad guy.
No, because he's a terrible person.
Yeah, no, I knew where
Oh.
you were going with that.
Yeah, because he's the worst.
He is pretty awful.
He's unconvincing as a boyfriend.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's
And the way he interacts with Hopper is totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
Having grown up in a 1980s small Midwestern town,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't really talk to the sheriff that way. You didn't call him names. You didn't slam the door shut. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you didn't step on Superman's cape.
Yeah. You don't step on Superman's cape, I suppose. So I don't like him.
Yeah, no, I did not care for Mike either.
And I think that it got worse this season in part because there's clearly an effort to make this about the empowerment of women.
Yes.
Like that
oh,
is-
I've got a fair or foul about that.
There's definitely a theme that runs through it, and to do that, Mike has to become even worse than he is
Yeah.
or has been, right? Like so that Elle and Max can have like their girl time empowerment. you
Which I
know,
really
like-
enjoyed the
Yeah.
L-Max relationship.
No, absolutely, absolutely. But I think it meant that Mike had to be,
Yeah.
and I think Jonathan was also sacrificed in a way too. That Nancy's storyline.
Jonathan really didn't have a lot to do
Right,
this
because
season.
he's hooked up with Nancy.
Yeah.
But Nancy's at the press is such a story of like the patriarchy.
Yeah. Oh,
that Jonathan can't really do or be much in this movie.
yeah.
Because if he does, it's going to run counter to what they're trying to
Yeah,
accomplish.
yeah.
And
Jonathan
so-
was very...
And I've never liked Jonathan to begin with. I've always felt like he was a fairly unbelievable
Yeah,
and
he's-
not a very sympathetic character to me.
Yeah, he was kind of... Yeah. I agree.
So,
He was
all right.
even, he's just kind of meh, and he was even more meh this season.
whoa, what a cliffhanger. Holy cliffhanger, Batman?
What was I supposed to say again?
See
And
the
you
next
say-
part in season 2. Oh, no,
Say, there's
wait.
so much good stuff in this podcast, it's going to be 2. The next one will drop soon. That's what you should have said, and then we'd be done.
Can we guarantee that it's going to drop soon? I feel like we might not drop
Well, I feel
soon.
like I've already said everything that needs to be said, so Rich could cut it right here, and
I
we'd
think
be
it's
good.
I think this is good.